Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Sky is Mine by Amy Beashel. Narrated by Elizabeth Klett. 1. It's not just my breath, but my voice that Jacob knocks out of me. As his palms knead hard into my chest, there are no words in my mouth, just his tongue and his "Oh, come on, Izzy," which spreads thick and sticky as Marmite. I hate Marmite. And his voice? Well, it's hardly an invitation, is it? It's a right. My body is quiet, too. You'd think my skin would sizzle when he pushes my back into the heated towel rail that's ramped up so high it's hotter even than Jacob's breath, and the brawl of his fingers working their way into, fuck yeah, the sweet spot. Like there's anything sweet in this. But I don't say that, obviously, 'cause this isn't a conversation. It's a raid. And I hate Marmite, but my body just kind of surrenders. Everything just kind of gives in. I shouldn't be here. Where I should be is on the other side of the bathroom door, with Grace. But Grace is with Nell, their bodies oozing in the pleasure they've found in each other. "Another drink?" he says. But just as Jacob's hands work like cuffs around my wrists, the bathroom door opens and he's all, "Crap, Izzy!" Like it was me who was in charge of locking the door. It's her. The one who's always rescued me. Grace! And I'm sure I say it, that her name from my mouth is a siren so loud and so urgent that she'll run from her stumble into the sink and pull me from where I'm squished behind Jacob out into the real world, where it'll be just the two of us again. But all my best mate does is a quick glance over with those proseccoed mutters of "oops" and "sorry," and then she's gone. And I'm still here, still pressed into him as he reaches for the open bottle with a "go on," as he tips vodka into my mouth, which is burning, and then I splutter alcohol into his eyes. "Fuck's sake, Izzy," Jacob says. And when he pulls back and his pressure's eased, I slide down the towel rail, head like a bouncy ball on its bars, until I hit the floor and droop. I wonder if he's gone, because Jacob's voice is kind of distant. Then he lets out this laugh that's like a puff of disgust and says something like, "Gotcha," before the blast of cool air lets me know I'm still here, on the wrong side of the door, having been coaxed in by the surprise of Jacob's smile. 'Cause it's not like he or anyone has paid much attention before. And, yeah, he had vodka and coke, and call me an idiot, right, but I thought the party might be easier with a shot or two. He gave me 4. All with this "one for me, one for you" kind of grin, and those hands of his, reaching up from where he straddled the loo, legs spread, and his groin so pleased to see me. "I'm gonna go," I'd said to Grace in the 30 seconds she'd spared me in the kitchen 20 minutes or so after we'd arrived. "No!" And her voice was all, "Don't leave me," as she pulled on the sleeve of my dress like she was genuinely so keen for me to stick around that she might actually stay and talk, instead of abandoning me for Nell's lips and whatever it was Nell was saying that gave Grace that brilliant glow. But she didn't. Talk to me, I mean. And so I'd stood at the table like some kind of loser until Jacob appeared with his drink and his invitation. I'd eyeballed Grace as I'd followed his lead into the living room, thinking if she felt it, my stare that was also a plea, she'd spot the path I was taking and freak out, 'cause there's no one she despises more than Jacob. And the freak out would be a stop sign, right? But her face had been so into Nell's face that she didn't notice me leaving the room, And so I'd walked out, kind of huffy, but still kind of hopeful, because Grace always comes to my rescue in the end. "Someone sort her out, would you?" Jacob shouts to whoever is in the hallway. It might be 2 minutes or it might be 10 before I feel a prod in my arm at the same time as, "She's totally out of it," and "Better get Grace." And even though I am, totally out of it I mean, Grace doesn't come. I message her when I'm outside. After this guy Max from my English class has lifted me to my feet and splashed my face with water. After I've walked through the living room, past the eyes and the "oi ois" and Jacob grunt laughing and sniffing his fingers. When I've done that, the walk of shame I reckon they call it, I slump against the garage door, biting back the retching as I drunk punch words into my phone. "Where are you?" "Sorry, Iz. Nell wasn't feeling great, so I'm taking her home." "But I needed you." "Sorry, so did Nell. X, you okay, Iz?" "Yes." And it shouldn't be a surprise, not really, how easy it is for Grace to believe it. That I'm okay, I mean. But she obviously does, 'cause that's the last of the messages, and she's probably back in Nell's arms already, while I try to keep myself upright and wonder whether or not to go home. Thing is, there's not much choice. Even if it feels as slippery there as it did at the party, there's nowhere else to go. And maybe Mum and Daniel will be in bed, and maybe my stepdad's disapproval of the dress he said made me look like I was up for it will have passed, and they'll be sleeping, and the house will be as quiet as me in the bathroom with Jacob before. "Izzy?" Shit. 'Cause the vodka's in my fingers as well as my head, these stupid fumbling fingers that can't keep hold of the keys, or whatever I had in my hand as a weapon on standby for when someone creeps up behind. "Izzy?" My feet, too. These ridiculous shoes on these dumb feet that can't walk a straight line, so it's no wonder he catches me, right? "Izzy." And the voice is a hand, is a touch in the dark. "Wait, I'll walk you home, yeah?" "Max." "Who'd you think it was? Kylo Ren?" "Huh?" "Jesus is. Here, let me." And before he even says what I should let him do, there's an arm round my waist and we're walking. "You're smashed. Seriously, you shouldn't be out on your own." If I were Grace, I'd have an answer for that. But I'm not Grace, am I? I'm pissed. And I'm guessing Max must have brought me back before disappearing into the night, because, like magic, I'm home. "What time do you call this?" I swear I nearly crap myself when a voice comes like a burglar alarm out of the dark. I can see the shape of him on the floor, leaning against the wall under a framed page from a book about feelings Mum brought me when I was a kid. Happiness, it says. But when I flick the switch for the light, Daniel looks so far from happiness, the irony's not even funny. "What are you like, Isabel?" And maybe with the vodka I misread his face, 'cause even though it's nothing like happy, his voice is different from the disgusted sneer when I left for the party earlier. None of the anger or disappointment. Softer, maybe. Like my stepdad might actually give a toss if I'm feeling awful. Like really awful. Like he did when we hadn't known him long, and I fell from my bike, and before the tears even had a chance to hit my cheeks, he'd scooped up the heap of me and smothered me with kisses he said were from fairies who'd given him powers to make me well. And sure, I already knew fairies weren't real, but, as with everything else he said, I believed him. "Come here," he says now, a whole foot taller than me so his chin rests on my head when he brings me to his chest and tells me he has concerns. And it all feels kind of weird when he says he's worried about boys, because I've obviously been drinking. And then there's that up for it dress. And I need to be more careful because you're so special. And it's not just his hand on my back, but his finger. And, yeah, that's attached to his hand, but one finger has a different kind of touch. Mum appears at the top of the stairs and his hand flattens into a palm. You okay, Isabel? Her voice tries to be a glass half full. She's good, Daniel says before I can say anything, using the bulk of him to shift me out of her sight. And I guess from how her footsteps take her back into the bedroom, like Grace, Mum must also be choosing to believe that I'm fine. 2. It's not the first time someone's slipped me a pair of inflated tits under the table. And even though Miss Green's onto him, I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time Jacob pulls up some hardcore on his phone and passes it round the class like a tin of Quality Street at Christmas. And if it weren't for his juiced-up excitement, I could hand it straight back. But there's this film of sweat from Jacob's palms, and what with that and the shock of that mesh of bodies going at it like hairless animals in a screen-sized cage in a zoo, the phone falls to the floor in an all-eyes-on-me kind of clatter, and Jacob rolls his eyes like, seriously, Izzy, as if I'm the idiot here. It's stupid, really, how I can look at the phone as I pick it up, but not at Jacob as I put it down on the desk, how his hard stare makes me feel as naked as those women in the film. Honestly, you lot. Miss Green doesn't clock Callum Gunn's hands miming just what he'd like to do to her bum as she walks from the whiteboard towards me. How many times have you been told, no phones in class? Sorry, miss. Though Jacob's voice is a sorry not sorry kind of smirk as Miss Green picks it up, turns it over, and sees the mass of skin, the wet mouths, and the perfectly timed shot of the man getting just what he came for. I'll delete it, miss, he says. But we all know that if he does, there are 1,000 more where that came from. Those films he called life lessons when I saw him watching one on the bus a few months back, and he did that V shape with his fingers, tongue between them, the other boys sniggering, and yeah, some of the girls too. Come on, miss, he says now. It's a laugh, innit? But Miss Green, the inside of her bottom lip pulled back between her teeth, doesn't look like she thinks that's true. Don't be a prude, miss, it's just bodies. He winks. Natural, innit? I catch Grace's eye like, say something. Ask Izzy, miss, Jacob mutters. I swear my face melts into my body, melts into the floor. Only it doesn't, not really. There's too much of me, too many inches of thick shame to disappear, and though Grace's hand on my thigh is an anchor, it's not enough to steady the shake, which starts in my fingers but spreads like gossip through the college corridors to the rest of me, 'cause though the click of Miss Green's heels on the floor might have prevented her from hearing Jacob's jibe about me, the rest of the class received it loud and clear. Not that it's anything new. Because, no kidding, it's 5 weeks since that party, and Jacob's still getting off on how easily I shrivel when he's around. Watch yourself, Mansfield. If Jacob's voice was a sorry not sorry, Grace's is a you will be. But his shoulders are like, whatever, as he stands, all that 6'2" of him, following Miss Green to the front of the classroom, where he leans over a desk, and in that voice, deep as hell since 3 or so years ago, when he and his mates hulked from boy body to man body, he apologises, just sincere enough this time. Miss Green tells him, any more of that, and honestly, Jacob, I'll have no choice. Thanks, miss, he says, head down as he turns away from her, slipping the phone into his pocket, where he makes a pantomime grab of his dick. He mouths in my direction, you love it. Max Dale shakes his head like, you knob, Mansfield. But he's smiling. Everyone's smiling, right? 'Cause it's natural, innit? Anything else, and you're just a prude. 3. All I'm saying is, I'm so totally glad boys aren't my thing, that's all. Grace's voice is like totally amdram. Ever since Mrs. James, our Year 3 teacher, told her how wonderfully she used emphasis after her turn reading Fantastic Mr. Fox aloud in class. She's been sure to verbally underline at least one word per sentence. Jacob Mansfield is such a creep. She reckoned the breeze along the seafront would shift the humiliation that smeared like cheap sun cream across my skin. But the June heat's making me stickier, which fits with the indignity, I guess. At least there's no doubting that I now look as crap as I feel. As usual, Grace glides through, talking at 100 miles an hour, unaffected by humidity or shame. If I was straight and had to choose from that bunch of pervs, I swear I'd die. Literally, she says. And not for the first time, I wish I was gay too. Because my best mate has a point. They don't make it easy, those boys. And if I were gay, maybe Grace wouldn't need Nell. Nell would never be like that, she says. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, we all know Nell would never be like that, 'cause Nell is never anything but perfect, right? OMG, Izzy, it's bliss! Grace had swooned, when, 6 weeks into their relationship, they'd taken the plunge and spent a night in a Margate B&B, looking the following morning like two flushed explorers who've discovered a new moon. Taken the plunge? I said, as we drank hot chocolate after, partly to dissect, and partly so she wouldn't be entirely lying when she told her mum she'd been hanging with me in the old town. It sounds so wet. And she smiled like, yeah, that's the point. And though she was holding my hand at the time, like she always does when we're revealing secrets, I felt this thin line being drawn between us, and I've had no hope of finding my way back to her side since. Max isn't so bad. I look away from Grace to the wind farm as I say it, or whisper it really, because I know what Grace will say. She'll say, in a voice that sounds like one of those feminist books she's always taking from the library, that I deserve better, and nothing is better than something if the something thinks jacking off to that misogynistic smut is okay. Yeah, not so bad if you like to spend time with someone whose idea of romance is sending out a group Snapchat asking 3 fingers or 4. I know she's proving some political point, but you'd think that over a month on, Grace would stop using the most mortifying moment of my life to do it. That was Jacob, I say, like it matters, 'cause right from the beginning, when we first started college, and Jacob made some comment about us being scissor sisters, Grace lumped all that lot together in a box labelled scum. Max is actually quite sweet. And I think of how he made sure I got home safely from that party, and how, last Friday, when Grace was off with Nell, when isn't she off with Nell, and Max was at McDonald's, he called out my name as I took my chocolate-thick shake and asked if I wanted to walk home. Normally I'd have been like, hold on, and disappeared to the loo to call Grace and ask what she thought. But Grace's giggles at lunchtime had made it pretty clear what she and Nell were up to that night. So, without saying yes or no, I just shrugged and fell in step alongside him, realising quick enough how even Max's voice had less swagger when Jacob Mansfield wasn't in tow. What are you listening to? Max could have just pointed at the earphones hanging round my neck, but he actually lifted one from my shoulder and nodded at the phone poking out from the pocket of my bag. Play it, he said. If I'd put it like this to Grace, I swear she'd have been rolling her eyes like, you just don't get it, do you, Izzy? And citing it as an example of Max's patriarchal power. But it was more gentle than that, more of a question, and not even a piss-take when I had to explain it wasn't Radio 1 or Spotify, but this show, Desert Island Discs, that basically sums up my childhood with Mum. It's a radio programme, I said to Max. On Radio 4. Radio 4? Isn't that for old people? Not always. And I reached for the earphones, but Max was all, I'm kidding, Izzy. And totally, go on then, tell me more. It's simple, really. Each guest imagines they're cast away to an island and has to choose the music they'd take with them. Funny, isn't it, how easily the words came when it was just the two of us. 8 songs. Possibly the only music they'll have for the rest of their lives. Cool. And I couldn't tell if Max was serious, but it is. I was practically gushing. Cool, I mean. Though really it's so much more. I've been listening to them all again, those Desert Island discs, on my own this time. Although sometimes, but not so much recently, if Daniel's out, I'll give Mum an earphone. And while it's not the green chair the two of us would squish into when I was a kid, that didn't go with Daniel's leather sofas apparently, the shared wires bring us close enough for me to feel her shoulders drop and her breaths deepen, for me to believe she's also remembering how Desert Island discs was once our thing. Because it was definitely a thing. We'd kick off Sundays listening to pop music in a super deep bath. She'd let me wash her hair, stick a flannel to her face and make shampoo potions, which I'd rub into the purplish lines on her tummy. And we'd marvel at my wizard genius as, over time, they faded silver. When the water was cold and we were wrinkled, we'd get dressed, and I'd curl into Mum's lap in that charity shop green chair she'd bartered down to £7.55 after we first moved out to Great-Grandma's place. And she'd stretch to switch from Radio 1 to Radio 4, ready to welcome guest after guest onto this island we'd made perfect for two. And my mates reckon it's a bit weird, 'cause, I know, right, Desert Island Discs isn't exactly Teletubbies or Postman Pat. And to be clear, I did watch those things too. But Sundays were special. Incredible, Mum would say sometimes, when the castaway had chosen their 8 tracks, their luxury and their book, struggling occasionally to decide which one record they'd save if their collection was at risk of being lost to the sea. What some people do with their lives. She'd hold me for some time after. What they overcome. And last Friday, Max's smile when I did hit play, it was curious. None of that sneering they're so full of in the canteen. And it felt kind of nice, kind of all right, to be with Max Dale when Grace was so obviously caught up in Nell. School? He nodded, like, honestly, as I'm not taking the piss, returning the earphone when the Castaway's track ended. Jacob was hurling "Oi, ois" from across the street by then, sniffing and waving his fingers, and it was clear the moment was done. Later. Max was away over the road, shrugging off whatever Jacob was saying, with one last look back at me before they were gone. Quite sweet? Grace says now. This flake is sweet, is. She licks at the 99. Max Dale is not sweet. He might not be as gross as Jacob, but he's best mates with the guy, and that's got to say something. I'm best mates with you. I hope people don't judge me for that. I take a swipe at her ice cream, but she's too quick. Should have got your own, she says. Then, like always, she says, have a bit if you want. But I'm on this food plan my stepdad Daniel's cooked up for my mum and me. Suit yourself. Oh, hold it a mo, would you? And the Mr. Whippy's practically in my face as she starts digging for her ringing phone in her bag. Babe, she says, as the cold slips down my throat and into my belly. Sure, she says. About 10 minutes, yeah? And the cold mixes with the sad, 'cause it's clear I'm about to be abandoned. It's practically a habit now, how Grace leaves me for Nell. Even the chocolate's no consolation. You don't mind, do you, Iz? Of course I shake my head. No, I don't mind. Because as much as I hate that face Grace has whenever she hears from her girlfriend, that wide-eyed look of the beast in the animated version when he meets Beauty on the stairs for a dance, sporting a suit and that crazy big, can't believe his luck kind of grin. It offers me hope, too. Hope, I guess, that for all the crappy places it can take you, it's also possible love will lead you to that top step moment when anything seems possible, when the beast changes from a monster and a happily ever after doesn't seem so much of a fairy tale trick after all. Go! Have fun! I mean it, too. Just like I mean the smile as she skips off and mean it still as Max Dale appears from behind a beach hut, asking in that not-so-swagger kind of voice if I fancy meeting up later. Grinning, totally friendly, totally cool, he says, "Thought maybe you've got some more old people radio shows you want to share?" 4. Who was he? Daniel's voice is a can of Coke. I know the rising bubbles are in there, but can't be sure how fierce they'll be until he opens the can. It's always tricky to tell how much he's been shaken. "Who do you mean?" But my stepdad speaking over me, already on his next lot of questions, asking if that boy goes to my college, and where did we head to, looking so close and so conspiratorial. "Imagine my surprise," he says, stirring milk into the tea he's making for me, taking the sugar from the cupboard, but with a quick glance at my belly, an almost undetectable shake of his head, putting it back without adding any, and then arranging 3 cookies on a plate, and leaving them on the end of the breakfast bar just within arm's reach. "I wasn't sure if it was you at first. I didn't think you were the kind of girl to be out with a boy on your own." He takes a biscuit, delicate bites, elongated chews, eyes on me while my gaze flits from him to the plate, where a chocolate chip has come loose. It's just a chocolate chip. But it's not really. It's willpower. Or, on Daniel's part, just power, full stop. Daniel's behind me then, his breath in my ear. "There's certainly no mistaking you from behind, though, is there, Isabel?" he says, the smile in his voice as cool as his hand on my back, that flesh between my T-shirt and jeans. 2 of his fingertips press and pull on my skin until Mum appears, and he sweeps his palm away, like it was never there, to her waist, easing her from the 2 remaining cookies. "Nuh-uh-uh. Not on the food plan, remember." And he slides the plate along the work surface straight past me and across to the other side, scooting around to catch it before it falls. "Save!" I don't know if it's the actor in him, but Daniel's always saving things. Biscuits, the day, us. I swear he's waiting for a part as a knight, just so he can come home in the shining armour. As if looking like George Clooney isn't enough. He'd opt for the white horse, too, come charging in like he always does, with his facialed skin, his massaged cuticles and his dyed grey hair to cast his net across the room, hauling Mum in with those practised lines of his, not the ones from scripts, but from the part of Daniel that personally wrote their wedding vows, in which he promised to love her fully, endlessly, differently from the way anyone has loved her before. "He's passionate," Mum said in the past, and my mates would back her up, swooning like they do when he dons the tux with the undone bow tie, suit jacket hooked on his finger and slung over his shoulder in what appears to be a casual way. But believe me, I've seen him rehearsing it in the mirror before heading off to some party, so middle-aged women can have their photo taken with their arms wrapped around a fake George. So my stepdad isn't some horse-backed prince, but a look-alike, though he prefers to tell everyone he's an actor, really. The George thing is just for fun. But with Clooney being so popular, and so handsome, Daniel jokes in that way that manages to be self-deprecating, even though he's basically saying he's, like, really hot. The celebrity double work just keeps on coming, so it'd be foolish to say no. Daniel is anything but foolish. "Come on then, Isabel. Spill the beans." He winks at Mum. "I believe our little minx here may have bagged her first boyfriend." "He's not my boyfriend." "The lady doth protest too much." Crumbs from the second cookie spill from between his teeth. "He's just a friend." Grace would kill me for even calling Max that. For even walking those few minutes with Max and shrugging my shoulders like, yeah, when he asked if I was free later. "All I'm saying is, I hope you don't do anything you shouldn't with your friend." What I most want is to snap Daniel's fingers in half as he makes those air quotes around friend. But I don't, obviously, because if Mum's anything to go by, the best thing to do is just ignore the fact that Daniel's being a complete and utter dick, and just sit there staring at that one last cookie,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?